The feudal system brought to England by the Norman French cemented their class boundaries. 1384 changed all that. It's an ill wind that blows no good. Winds don't get any iller than bubonic plague. It hit England like a storm from hell and wiped out half of the population. As Margaret Thatcher so eloquently put it, you can't book the market. Supply and demand drove the 14th century economy just as it did the one in the 20th century. Fewer workers meant they could start asking for more advantageous conditions. And if their lord wouldn't negotiate, then the peasants would just move to another lord who was more sympathetic in his approach. It would be another 300 years before Cromwell would push aside the divine rights of kings, behead Charles I, giving Parliament powers that it had not enjoyed since the Anglo-Saxon Witan gathering of wise men 6 centuries earlier. Industrialisation concentrated the working class in large, sometimes sordid conurbations. Terrible as these places were, they gave people opportunities too. One of the most effective opportunities was the availability of people to network with. The organised trade unions did much to improve the lot of the British workers, at first anyway. Some Englishmen in the colonies of America went further and fought successfully for independence from an autocratic German king. Not only did they divorce themselves from the monarchy, but from the class system too, moving towards a meritocracy. The United States was built on the sound Anglo-Saxon values expressed in Beowulf. The 20th century was to bring the biggest changes and one of the worst catastrophes. The struggle for global trade advantage and European political alliances drew the English into World War I. The whole of Britain suffered. 420,000 British perished at the Battle of the Somme alone. A whole generation of British men was wiped from history. With so few men in Britain, middle-class women took up many of the usual male professions. Their working-class sisters had worked in heavy industry for years, of course. These middle-class women gained the confidence to demand more political rights. If Britain was on the winning side in World War I, then it was a shallow victory. The economic disasters of the 1920s drove many into poverty. The Second World War would prove even more devastating for the British. In order to maintain its war effort against Germany, Britain had to sell its soul. The Americans extracted a heavy price for their help. In fact, it took the British from 1945 to 2003 to pay off the debt. The British people had to endure rationing well into the 1950s. And with the steady loss of empire, the English in particular seemed to lose confidence in their identity as a nation.